All right, ladies and gentlemen, my guest today is Mr. John Moreland. He is a songwriter out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. Some critics have called him a songwriter, and he burst onto the scene in 2013 with the album In the Throes and had a great follow-up to that album, High on Tulsa Heat. And he has been one of the biggest names in Americana ever since. He's back now. He's on tour and he's coming to New Orleans Wednesday night at Chickie Wah Wah, April 9th. I'll be there. You should probably be there too. He is on tour to support his, I think it's your seventh studio album, Visitor. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, seventh one.
Yeah. Um, So you took a break in 2023, and as I think I was reading that you kind of put away your smartphones, you didn't tour for a minute, and the
Yeah.
result of you coming back was the album Visitor, which you kind of dropped as a surprise release on everybody. What were the benefits of taking that break away from everything, and why the surprise release?
Yeah, well, the benefits were, I mean, man, I'm not sure I'd be alive today if I hadn't taken that break. It was a rough stretch. And then, it just gave me the space to kind of get back to a place where I could enjoy do writing music and doing my career again. Just doing it because I want to and not because I feel pressure to. And kind of gave me the space to figure out what was in my brain and in my heart, and write those songs about it, and help me kind of take the next step personally, which is I think why I write songs. And then and then that gave us the album, which gave me something to do and make that and get out and play some shows behind it. So I mean, it was a really good time. Yeah, I'm not sure I'd still be here if I hadn't done it.
Um, so you're back with Visitor. When I listened to that album, um, I know you had two albums before it that kind of had a little bit of an experimental sound,
Yeah,
some electronic things going on.
yeah,
Those are two beautiful albums, a lot of different layers on those things. But with Visitor, it feels a little more scaled back, maybe a little bit of a return to the style we were introduced to you with, and it
yeah.
seems a little reflective too. Is there some kind of spiritual sense on this record?
I think so. Yeah, yeah, and I think that it is kind of a. I think a lot of the things I was going through were reflective. It was really, really looking back on my life, kind of in just picking up where I left off in some ways, and think the areas that I felt kind of stunted or crippled, or and so it was a time that involved a lot of reflection. And I think I was at a place where I just didn't know how to move forward. It felt like anywhere I can go from here is going to be it's going to be terrible. So I think that was just like, how do I get back to somewhere where I can move forward from? And it involved a lot of looking back, just to kind of figure out, retracing steps, I guess, figure out where I went wrong, or not, maybe not even that, but just like what was driving me all this time.
Yeah.
What's my deal? Why did I do this? Why did I do the things? Why, realizing like ways that I have always kind of sabotaged myself, and trying to work on those things. And so that definitely shows through in the songs. And I think the sound of the record, naturally, maybe I just felt like kind of going back to an older sound, that or something closer to that, because I was thinking about those days, and things like that. And also, just the way I felt like recording, I think at the time was, I was still really in the middle of that big break from the world, and I didn't really feel like going to a real studio and hiring musicians and all that stuff. So I just recorded in the living room, by with just me and my wife, and so it was like that's another that's what I can do by myself. I can't go too crazy, but I can like do a folk record by myself in my living room. So it's kind of just informed by those things, and that's kind of the way I like to do it. Just let the circumstances kind of provide the framework that dictates what the art is going to be.
For you to go to a place where you kind of go away and rediscover yourself again, I'm sure you're probably wanting to get back to some familiar sense of familiarness. Um, I, when you emerge again, is there also something different that you've learned about yourself? How are you different since coming back?
Oh, I mean, so many ways. I'm a lot different. I think my kind of like foundational worldview and philosophy of you know how being a human works is very different, I would say, than before. And I mean, it's kind of hard to articulate because it feels very all encompassing and broad. But it doesn't feel like I'm a different person, but it just um, but I'm but I definitely respond to life very differently than I did before that time. And you know that has really helped me a lot in my career too. I think a lot of those ways I mentioned earlier, I was like sabotaging myself. Is like a lot of those were career related, and as well as just life stuff that I've kind of always done, just patterns, how I knew how to be and interact with the world. So um yeah, I don't know. It's I'm a work in progress, but it's been good.
Yeah, coming out of the pandemic, we really had like a mountain of music from various different artists out there coming up with new things. And that seems to kind of be a similar thing of rediscovery amongst a lot of new releases that are out there. And, probably whether you're an artist or a musician or anything in your everyday life, it's probably in this day and age important to find time to reclaim parts of yourself, reclaim parts of reality, and
Yeah,
just kind of getting in touch with those things again.
I think so. It's kind of easy to lose yourself or whatever that means, with as much media and information as we're inundated with these days.
And there's certainly a reflection of that on your latest record, Visitor. Or is that something that I heard, or am I making
Yeah,
that up?
no, yeah, definitely. I mean, I was that during that time away from the world, or I wasn't touring or anything. I was also using a flip phone and no smartphone. So that's another thing I was reflecting on is just how um, the way I use technology today, and which mainly was, I didn't really have a problem with the way I use my laptop. That's never fucked
Yeah.
me up too bad. But like the smartphone was mainly the issue, and yeah, having that flip phone for like 6 months really kind of caused me to consider just phone stuff and the way I use
Yeah.
it, and that's another thing that's been a lot different since then. But yeah, I think I mean, that for sure is in some of the songs, I would say.
I think that's something interesting about technology these days that you can easily overindulge in it. It can rule your life and take over. But there are also some positive aspects in that you can you can use your phone or your laptop to make notes and speed your projects up quicker. And then, like you said, you were able to, in a compact way, produce this, you know,
Yeah.
very detailed record and everything from the living room of your own house.
Yeah.
And, probably 20, 30 years ago, we wouldn't really be able
Hard.
to do that.
That would have been much harder. Yeah. Much more expensive to, yeah.
It definitely was more expensive back then.
Yeah.
Whether it be this record or any one of your records, everyone that knows you really well says that your songs carry just a tremendous emotional weight. I've heard some people describe it as a gut punch sometimes. I've heard some people describe it as life-saving. For me, it's definitely all positive, and I mean, I've sat alone and shed a tear or two. I'm not afraid to admit that listening to your own music, and it makes me think about my own life and where I am. So I was kind of wondering, and everyone, I know it's so cliche, everyone tries to reach an emotional depth when they write music, but how do you how do you get so deep?
Um, I think that my impulse to write songs is kind of comes from a place of really trying to figure out like what's wrong with me, more or less, so to
Hmm.
speak. And
A little
I
bit of
think I've
self-therapy
started.
there.
I started writing when I was started writing songs when I was really I like 10, but I started writing like real songs that where I tried to talk about feelings and stuff when I was 12. So
Hmm.
pretty young, but I would say that's kind of also around the time that I first kind of started feeling like alienation and like a weirdo, or just I wasn't couldn't figure out how to be like other kids or whatever, things like that. And I didn't realize it at the time. I just thought it was like a fun thing to do. But I think that's really what drew me to songwriting so hard, and why I just wanted to do it all the time at such a young age, because I long before I would ever go to therapy or knew had access to that, it was like some way to kind of like unpack what's inside of me and figure it out, or at least start to do that. And I would say the process of writing songs through the course of my life from then until now, age 39, um, that is really what it's done. Like I've really um, I feel like I've really everything I know about myself and have been able to work on and overcome, and the reason I have a better life and more hope for the future now than I did when I was 20 or whatever is because of songwriting. It's because of just writing songs that whole time, and it's the way I figure my stuff out. And so I think, and then it was became a vehicle for also just to make a living. And so like, but I think early on though, I realized because of that, again, I wouldn't have been able to articulate it, but I think I understood like the thing to do here is just like rip my own guts out, because I'm trying to like sort that out. And I just, you know, I think that that's what it ends up doing to other people. That's what it, and um, that's just, I think that's what I write songs for. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to like break my own heart so I can crack it open and see what's in there and see why it feels messed up, and whatever it is, you know what I mean?
Yeah, just examine the whole thing and put it all back together again.
Yeah.
I'm kind of struck with how you said that when you're around like 10 and 12, you started kind of making your first attempts at
Yeah.
songwriting, and you were dealing with feelings of alienation already at such a young age. And it kind of leads me into this other question I wanted to ask you about. The way to produce music and get discovered is so much different now. There are kids today that put out a video on TikTok, and the next year that they're touring arenas and things like that. But I
Yeah.
think when you and I were younger, it was a lot different, and you might feel like no one would ever come through your town or anything like that.
Yeah.
Um, um, uh, what was the music like around you growing up? I know you've lived in Kentucky for a while, and and you still live in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Um, what was music like then? What was the scene like? Was there something to get into? I know you used to be in metal bands when you were young too.
Yeah. Yeah, in Kentucky I was young, so that wasn't really a thing for me there, but in Tulsa, I started going to shows, yeah, about that time, 12, 13. And yeah, there was like, I mean, it was a small, quaint little scene, small Midwestern city, but it wasn't like East Coast hardcore scenes or anything,
Right.
but it was definitely like active, and it was a small number of people, but there were always like a bunch of active bands coming out of that group of people, and shows happening all the time. And so that was I feel really fortunate. That's like where I kind of learned that anybody can like play music, and you don't have to be like a prodigy uh, instrumentalist or a or like
Yeah.
whatever, I don't know. And
Yeah.
so a genius. And I mean, I guess I was writing songs already, but I was kind of like that sort of showed me that anyone can like do it for real. Like you can tour, you can put out records, you can, and you don't have to wait for some mysterious break or whatever. You can just go do that. So but yeah, I mean, that's kind of what it was like. It wasn't like wasn't big, and nobody was really paying attention to it, but that kind of allowed us to just be really active and creative and have a lot of fun. And yeah, it was a just small scene, but I'm glad it was there. It kind of taught me everything I know.
And talking about Tulsa a little bit, how is it different coming out of a place like Tulsa versus maybe like a coastal city or more of a major market city? How is it not only opportunity wise, but are there some stylistic differences there?
I don't think there's stylistic differences necessarily in the music. I mean, maybe there are some from local stuff that you get influenced by, but at the same time, like everybody's got the internet, everybody's hearing. I mean, it's not like you hear a lot. The Tulsa sound gets talked about a
Yeah.
lot. I don't really think that's even a thing. Like I don't know what the Tulsa sound is. And kids from Tulsa now have the internet and they listen to everything. So they're not. It's not like they just grow up playing that stuff. So I think you know I don't know that it's like an influence on that, but to me, it's a cool place to tour from because it's so central, and it's a cool place to be based out of because it's one of the cheapest parts of the country. And but there's limitations for if you go to Nashville or LA or something, like there's the music business is there and you can get
Hmm.
in that. I mean, that's not in Tulsa. You can't do that. So if you want to live in Tulsa and have a music like a legit music career, you got to tour. And I
Hmm.
think for that, it's great. I mean, it's cheap and it's central. So like, but it's not really a hub. And if you want to just like kind of chill and just play, there's a lot of that too. I mean, it's kind of one of the rare places remaining, I would say, where you can actually kind of make a living as just like a small time local musician, just play uh, residencies. You play this spot every Tuesday, this spot every Thursday, this spot every Wednesday, whatever, and then you fill that in with weekend gigs, and then you maybe teach some guitar lessons or something, and that's a you have like a pretty sick life in Tulsa doing that. So that's really cool.
That is awesome, and it sounds tight, and it's not that much different from here in New Orleans. We kind of
Yeah,
go by our own
it's kind of
rules over
a
here,
place
and
where you can still do that too. Yeah.
yeah. and we have the classic New Orleans sound, but we
Yeah,
have bands that,
for
any
sure.
kind of band you can think of, we have
Yeah,
it down here.
yeah.
Um, Also, I wanted to just kind of pick your brain about your process a little bit. How do you typically construct a song? Do you kind of come up with lyrics first or guitar parts? And what were some of the artists that kind of influenced you to get into the folk side of things that you're into now today?
Yeah. Well, some of the artists that influenced me to be into that stuff, I would say maybe are like Gillian Welch and Steve Earle and Towns, Jason Molina. And then, as far as how I put a song together, I mean, it can vary song to song, but generally, I'm kind of just always thinking of little, when something hits me or I hear something or whatever that maybe makes me think of a cool line or a couplet, or it maybe even just a word that I think is cool. I want to try to work into a song or something. And I'll kind of like, just on my phone, keep little notes of that. And I have a running, list of those things. And then, maybe every 3 or 4 months, I'll kind of have like a week or two period where I'll just, feel like, okay, I feel like ready to write some songs now. It's time. And then I'll kind of like, just hunker down for some time with the guitar and like take those, just kind of refer back to that list of ideas and mine that stuff and start kind of turning it into songs. I'll take from the list and then I'll, you know, come up with new things to fill it in, or sometimes I take, also I feel like most, my songs are kind of about everything. So I always kind of feel like I don't really feel too precious about like, oh, it has to, this line that I thought of doesn't fit with this other line from 2 weeks ago because they're about two different things or whatever. Like, I don't really care. They're about the same thing to me. And, to me, it's more about do I feel like they go together, And so I just kind of like do that. It's kind of like puzzle pieces. It's kind of like, sort of spitting out like raw material whenever it comes along, and then just taking all those pieces and like building whatever you can out of it.
Yeah, and that sounds like sage advice for anybody who's going to pick up a guitar or any instrument and try to do it themselves.
That's the way I do it. I like it.
Yeah, I know with me, and I'm not trying to plug myself here, but it's really like pieces of things.
Yeah,
Like I'll catch a line like going in and out of a room or something like that, and it'll be like just a phrase, and then sometimes it will bother me so much, and I'm like, I need to go sit down and fill. It's almost like filling the blanks. Like I need to fill
yeah,
this out,
right, yeah,
and then sometimes it's just a group of notes that
yeah,
start the whole thing.
yeah.
But the last thing I want to ask you before I let you go, and again, thank you for spending some time with us today.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Um, so Wednesday you're playing over at Chickie Wah Wah. I wonder, do you have any expectations for playing in New Orleans? Which, I know you have many dates and you're on the road all the time. But what are you looking forward to the most for Wednesday?
I'm just looking forward to being in New Orleans again. I love it there, and I was actually just there in like January. I didn't play anywhere, but hung out for a few days,
Just
and
hanging out.
so I'm happy to get to go back again so soon and play a show this time. And as far as the show, I really have no expectations. It's been so long since I've played my own show in New Orleans. I'm kind of like, I hope people remember me and come out, and if they don't, I'll be like, yeah, that makes sense. I haven't played here in like 8 years or whatever. So it's kind of whatever. I'm just glad to be coming back.
Well, John, I'm going to welcome you ahead of time.
Thank you.
Thank you. I hope you enjoy your time in town. I know it's going to be brief, and you never feel like you have enough time in New Orleans.
Yeah.
Um, but we'll be looking forward to it. I'll be there. I can't wait to watch you perform again. And thank you for talking with the Fox 8 Digital Desk today.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. I'll see you there.
Yeah, man. All right. Peace
All
out.
right. Bye.
Bye.